Hi, Tara. Thank you for joining us.
David, we have Maureen today. She's going to be doing the minutes, so she'll probably need to do like a little attendance thing.
Oh, great.
We can check off who was present. Okay.
Thank you, Patrice.
Sure.
Maureen, whenever you want to get started, you can please go ahead.
Oh, sure. I'm ready when you are. I've got Brenda Adams.
Present.
John Bradley. Supervisor Collins. Terrence Duvall. Suzanne Flom. Dan Haas. Supervisor Hotley.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Tara Humphrey, she's notified, correct?
joining us today.
Okay, thank you. Claudia Kenny. Supervisor Knott.
Here.
Thank you. Wendy Madsen.
I don't think Wendy is joining us today. She had a conflict, but I talked to
Okay,
her later.
thank you. Bill Mancini.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Matthew Mercier.
Yep, present.
Thank you. Patrice. Steve Powers.
Here.
Oh, good. Jolene Race.
Here.
Jody Rail. Bruce Shanker.
Here, present.
And Matt Stitchcomb.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Oswaldo. Mark Anthonson, is he joining us today?
I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kelly? No. Okay. We're all set?
What was I supposed to say here?
Yes, John Bradley here.
Sorry.
I have you, John. Thank
And
you.
Okay, thanks.
It looks like Dan Haas just joined as well.
Dan Haas is
Thank
here.
you.
This is like Christmas come early. I appreciate everyone's here. We have a full team here. That's really great. And we have some good news to share, and I think we have some good momentum. So this is all very exciting. We're going to jump in and talk about first the exciting new news that Wendy Madsen from the Department of Solid Waste has been offered and accepted the role of part-time coordinator for the task force, thanks to the good work of mainly the supervisors that are on the call and on our task force. So thank you all to the 4 supervisors and your colleagues for making that happen. This has been this is an important point in our progress and our ability to do work. So we appreciate it. She had a prior very quickly in the last couple of weeks. So she had a prior. She will be joining us at this time, you know, obviously in future meetings, and she's very excited. The first thing she said when I got on the phone with her, I was very happy to hear, is I'm really excited about what we're doing and making progress, and can't wait to get us certified as bronze. So she's got her eye on the prize, and that was great. And I think it's going to be exciting to work together. She did send me a little blurb. She's currently the deputy director of solid waste. She's been in that position since July. She assisted in implementing the countywide building recycling program and the pilot composting program. And she's worked for the solid waste department for many years, or back in the 90s, she worked for solid waste. And she's been working for the county for several years prior to taking this job. And she's excited to be involved and looks forward to working with everyone. So, and she said it here in her email again, working together with the committee to get Columbia County on the map for bronze ASAP. So all good stuff. And I gave her an update on where we're at with solar benchmark and we'll all get to meet her in January. And I plan on setting up a time to meet with her in the next week or so to make sure she has all the information that we've got. So that's great news. I don't know if anyone has anything to add about that. Just informational. So, community solar. Since the last meeting, we realized, unfortunately, that we had an incorrect email address for Nexamp, and so they never received our request for applications. We had made a recommendation by email following our last meeting to the government committee to choose Astral Power as the partner for the county, and that was put on hold for more information, and that's what hadn't actually received the proposal. So we opened it back up, and we received their proposal, Nexamp, yesterday or 2 days ago, and I emailed it to everyone yesterday. It should be in that email I sent yesterday, along with the other proposals. And we don't necessarily expect everyone to have read through everything, but by all means, if you want to, it's a lot to read through. But led by Terrence Duval from CLC and our little subcommittee, we've created a nice spreadsheet comparing the four proposals and have some, we wanted to discuss that with you and share our thoughts and next steps. The link, I've included everyone in, and Terrence will present in a minute, but just looking for the chat here. I will put the link to this spreadsheet, and if someone has trouble seeing it, they may need permission. It's always difficult when you have certain email addresses that don't work with Google, but hopefully people can pull that up and follow along. And if not, and it's a real problem, I'll make sure you get a copy one way or another, whether it's a download of it or whatever, after the meeting. I'll try to, maybe I can do that, the Excel version, and I'll email it out to everyone just in case the link isn't working.
David,
someone,
excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but if on the bottom you could present it on the with everyone, like
the only
that way.
Yeah, it's just it's got a lot of information, and it's very small, and I'm not sure it's going to present well, but we could try that. I don't know if, Terrence, you want to try that. But either way, I'd like people to be able to see it. So I will email it out, but I just put the link in the chat. If that works for you, great. And I will link, while Terrence is talking, I'll do that. But I believe someone has their hand up. Who is that? Just saw a hand go up.
Supervisor Hoatling.
Oh, yes, thanks.
So one piece that I didn't know before, and when we had a meeting with the supervisors on this task force and the county attorney and the chairman, one thing that was raised also was that we need to make sure that we potentially piggyback on if it's not on that state list. Remember, we had two options. One was the state list, and one was any other contractor that is going with another municipality. So the one thing the county attorney said we did need to look into is for these companies that we're looking at, if they can send us a copy of the RFP that was put out by the municipality that is contracted with them, or municipalities, we need to make sure that there's language in that RFP that allows us to piggyback onto it. So that was one piece that when Ron Caponera sent, here's your options, we didn't know that one piece. I'm wondering now that Wendy is a coordinator, and Jolene, you may have already, you were on that call, I think a good next with the county attorney and potentially the controller, and just make sure that she knows all the steps we need to take to be back, so that we don't get to the end, end line and go, oh wait, we didn't do this one step. And that's one nice thing about having the coordinator and having them be a county employee, is she'll have access to have that conversation with the county attorney, with any relevant department. So I just wanted to put that out there for everyone to know. And maybe Jolene, have you already talked to Wendy about that, or is that something you can have her make sure process wise that she gets all the steps?
I've already with her, as did Patrice. She knows that she has accessibility to all the departments, and that when it comes to the RFP process, it will be similar as that we do in the county already in all the departments. So she's well aware that the processes that she's going to have to go through.
Okay, and that if we piggyback on another one, we need to see their RFP to make sure that we're allowed to piggyback.
Correct.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Tisha, is there any way we can, is there any specific information that we need to know is in the RFP that's going to be the question that I think arises if they're trying to, they may have many to choose from. It may vary. I don't know.
Yeah, well, so if it's on that state OGS list, we don't need to worry about it.
Right.
If it's another municipality or county that we're going on, which Ron Caponera said we could do, we just have to make sure that there is language within, when they went out to RFP, that there's language saying that other municipalities can piggyback on their contract, which typically there is, but the county attorney just wanted to make sure. So Wendy can have a conversation with the county attorney to find out exactly what language needs to be in there.
Great.
But it would be helpful for any of the companies that we're looking at, if they have access to that original RFP that they, got the contract with, they could send it over and it could go to Wendy, who could then just double check with the attorney.
Okay, great. Steve.
So I guess the question I have is, and maybe Tara can clarify this too, in terms of us getting points with NYSERDA, I don't think that's an issue, whether there's an agreement with the piggybacking. All they need is just the account number and the address.
That's correct, Steve. They don't need to know, they don't really care who the community solar provider is. They just need to see, if the address is, in Chatham, for example, it would count for both the county and the town. The issue that Tisha brought up is basically about, I think, the incentive that they maybe initially offer to, say, the town of Chatham of 10% discount, and we can sign up Chatham residents. Is that applicable to somebody in Ankrum, for example?
So just to clarify, the only thing I'm bringing up is actually a legal issue from the county's perspective. We can't piggyback on a contract that doesn't have language in it that we're allowed to piggyback on it. So it has nothing to do with the NYSERDA program, the Climate Smart Communities program. It's from our county attorney from a legal perspective. If we're going to piggyback on another municipality's RFP, that there has to be language in their RFP allowing other municipalities to piggyback on it.
Okay.
It's a legal thing from a county perspective as far as how we are allowed to piggyback onto contracts.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I can confirm that NYSERDA doesn't care about that piece. So they're okay with the piggybacking.
Great. Okay. So I'm about to email this. Taryn, are there any other hands up? I can't see everyone. I think so, but if there are, speak up, please. And then Terrence, go ahead when you're ready.
Sounds good. So I've shared my screen. I believe you all can see that, but as David said, it's pretty kind of cluttered. So you might want to open it up in your own browser, and I may just buzz around on my screen. I can describe the process that Matthew, Steve, David, and I took to review the first 3 RFPs, and then when we received NextAmp's proposal, we did the same thing and we added it to the spreadsheet. And so I can describe kind of what we found, how we based our first decision, and then kind of where we're looking to go from here. You can see in that leftmost column A, these are kind of the criteria that we pulled out from the RFPs to compare apples to apples between the companies. And in that first couple, you see what would be coming back to the customers who would be subscribing and what kind of incentives the companies could provide, as well as what would be coming back to the county as part of their proposal. And then the next thing that we looked at was the capacity for the three providers there are 3 electrical services in Columbia County, to make sure that we were going to be covering the entire county and that the capacity would match what we would hope to come from such a campaign. And then we looked more about what the companies would specifically be doing to attract business, attract subscribers, how much of that would rely on the company and how much of it would rely on on us, on the county, to supplement, followed by what kind of experience they have with the Solar Res program. This is part of looking at whether or not they're on the OGS list, or if they could be, if we could kind of work around that, just what we were talking about. And then we have our questions about, let's see, we've got our LIM or LMI, is it low to middle subscribers, as well as the consolidated billing, whether the bill that would come from subscribing to this community solar would come as a separate bill, or if it would just be rolled into the utility bill that the consumers are already paying. Whether consumers would face any termination fees for leaving their contract early. Whether the companies would take the large energy users, demand energy users, which is typically over 25 kilowatts of demand. Whether they'd be willing to work with multiple providers. So if we could have more than one provider working at the same time on this campaign. And whether they look at, or whether they own and operate their own developments, or if they work with developers who are developing solar arrays, they get subscribers, they get the subscribers hooked into that, and they're more of a liaison between the solar arrays on the ground and the consumers who are going to end up getting that power. What we found when we looked at this initially was that between Astral Power, Nelnet, and Power Market, there was kind of a strong preference on our part for Astral Power, because it seems to be kind of locally focused with a pretty good track record working locally and a grassroots effort for consumers, and that would translate into a lot of subscribers for this campaign. We also saw that their capacity was in all three: the National Grid, NYSEG, and Central Hudson, at least coming up. Between the three as well, I think we all felt that Power Market was a bigger company that kind of seemed to fill out a form proposal, and it wasn't so much geared to Columbia County, and it didn't seem like it necessarily could translate in the same way. Benefits to the customers in terms of the discount is all uniform. When we had follow-up questions with the companies, it seemed like the credit or the gift that they would receive from the companies could all be matched, kind of making them all equal in our considerations. And we knew that Astral could work with other companies, but we also looked at it as, would we be undermining the effort if we had competing companies in the same area? And so initially we were thinking just kind of be a straightforward way to go. Like David said, we weren't aware that Nexamp hadn't received the RFP. And so when we reviewed that proposal this week, we filled out another column, which looked at the same criteria. Generally, Nexamp, similar to Power Market, it seems like a much larger company. They're working, outside of New York State, and they're working kind of over a large area. They seem to have the experience that could lead to a lot of subscriptions. They are and develop their own solar installations, and then maintain them and their consumers from beginning to the end of the subscription. So all of their customer service is working with the customers from the time that they're signed up through all of their contract with the company. One big difference between the two was that Astral Power offers consolidated billing. Nexamp doesn't do that by default. They said that they would be willing to consider that to see how it could work, but typically they have their own billing system. So you still end up having your utility bill, and now you have an bill with an online portal. Basically, we we liked their proposal as well. It seemed well put together, and it seems like they could work well with Astral Power, kind of in the same area. One thing is they have no capacity in Central Hudson, so it doesn't seem like Nexamp by itself could cover the whole county, which is why we started considering, again, looking at two companies. And really what we're looking to do now is follow up with both companies in the following week to see if we could get where there are discrepancies, if we could kind of get them in parity with each other, and so that we can bring that back to the group with another recommendation. And I know David has a list of those questions, and we can kind of popcorn in about all of our impressions. I see a hand raised.
Yeah, Supervisor Hopefully.
Yeah, so consolidated billing to me is a huge deal. Here in New Lebanon, when we first went out, it was not consolidated billing, and you had to do you had to put a credit card on file and do some sort of like prepayment. I had so many residents like, no way, we don't want two bills. We're not giving them our credit card information. It was I'm sorry, it wasn't even credit. It was like your debit card, and even for me, I live paycheck, so like I'm not always sure if that's going to be an ounce. Like I can't sign up for that. And so obviously if we go with two, then customers can pick what works for them. But I think you're going to find a huge difference in signups based on the consolidated billing versus the non-consolidated billing. Because the nice thing about consolidated billing is you're still getting your bill through NYSEG, like nothing changes other than the discount on your bill. Right. And that is such an easy sell to people versus this other company, and you have to put a debit card, and it's just, I think that's a huge sticking point between.
Yeah, I mean that's non-negotiable. I would just say that. They say they would be open to it. We have to explore that. If they can't do it or it's going to be too difficult, take too much time, I think that's a deal breaker in my opinion. Supervisor Adams?
And I agree, David, only because also the county, we're putting our name on this, right? So like if people think there's a scam or think there's something here with the first one, then I think that's important that the county go with one that is easy. So thank you.
I have a few more things I want to go through in terms of the questions, the follow-up questions, so people can be assured that we're going to follow up on those things, and then we can, of course, we want to hear from everyone. But Supervisor Adams?
I just briefly wanted to say we had the same experience when we opened our campaign. People went to the service provider's website, they read the information about how it would be billed, and they called and they said, as much as I want to join the program, this is a barrier for me, I can't join the program. So then when they understood the video was dated and consolidated billing was available, we signed up 80 people in 4 weeks. So it was night and day. It was the difference.
Yeah. So just the questions, the follow-up questions, consolidated billing is actually the first on the list of my questions. So that's certainly up there. There's a discrepancy in the subscriber benefit. There's $100 from Astral Power. And that's wrong, by the way. Astral Power originally had said the first 50 customers would get $100, and for the first 50 customers, the county would get $100 single payment. We pushed them, and they agreed to make it $100 throughout the life of the campaign for both. So that was equal to the other two at the time proposals. But now so that's good. I'll just correct that real quick. But in the Nexamp proposal, they offer not 75%, but $75 gift card, and we need that to be at a parity, like Terrence said. So that's a question. Can you match Astral Power? The other question, there's nothing for the county in there as well. So that's also, in my opinion, would be a deal breaker if we can't raise $100 per subscriber that's available from Astral. As a payment to the county. Commercial demand termination clause is an issue. It seems like we have to explore what happens with demand customers under both proposals and get more detail. It seems like Astral allows for demand customers It's silent on the termination for demand customers and how it differs. Financial information from larger customers, which I don't think is a big deal to get that from businesses. But the Nexamp proposal it looks like they want demand customers to sign up for a 20-year contract. So there's potentially quite a big difference there in terms of what they're offering residential customers, like the county, who we hope will subscribe. That would be a huge amount of solar in the county if the county buildings subscribe, and it would save money, obviously. But the terms have to be right. So we want to explore that. By the way, Astral does, because they partnered with this company, Oya, they do actually, Oya owns the installations. So I think that's similar because they've set up a partnership with a single developer of solar projects. And that's all I have. So there are questions around the logistics, and I don't have experience with these campaigns. I'd be curious what Tara has to say and anyone else, but questions around running a campaign with two providers and how to best do that. And then there are also questions around when the available capacity for each utility comes online, because it's not all available. Some of it's coming online over the course of the next year. So we really want to dial into the available capacity when it's coming online realistically, and how much of a lag there'll be when a subscriber signs up and when they actually get their bill, which shows that they're actually getting the solar power and the discount. And we don't want people to feel misled, sign up, months go by. We want to at least be able to say, you're likely going to wait 3 or 4 months, so that they're prepared for that if that's the case. So we want to explore that a little more. But Tara, what are your thoughts about 1 versus 2 providers for a county?
So Albany County is running a campaign that they started a couple months ago, and they decided to choose 2 providers. They're working with Solarize Albany, which is a group that's been around for a few years now doing these campaigns. Solarize previously just worked with 1. So they felt it was a better decision to choose 2 because I think they wanted to offer the idea of choice to the customer as opposed to saying, like, here's the one, this is your only choice. They're basically offering the same thing. So they did choose 2 companies that are offering exactly the same discount and incentive. They both offer consolidated billing. So there really isn't a choice, but it just is more of like, who do you feel more comfortable with? That's kind of how they came down to that model, which I thought was a good idea.
And how does it affect the campaign and the outreach? I would imagine on some level having competition isn't a bad thing if they're offering essentially the same thing, and it's clear, because they might fight harder for subscribers, which would be good for everyone. But how does it work in terms of the campaign and trying to coordinate it and communicating clearly to the public?
Yeah, so they have a website that they use, Solarize Albany. And what they did is they just set up a web page and they gave each company a blurb to basically talk about, like, in your own words, tell us who you are, because again, they're offering the same thing. So there's not much competition. They are kind of just, having them both on flyers. It's not, there isn't, a huge, I wouldn't say an entirely different process than you would use just to promote one. I can't see any other issues that I would bring up as far as that goes.
And we don't have a website. We do. We have a website we haven't really used yet on the county, but there's a Climate Smart page. So we could do this. We could put something up there, and it probably makes sense to do that. We don't have a social media presence in the county yet either. So how important do you think that is?
I'll mention too that's another piece. So when these companies set up, usually what they'll do is they'll set up a link for you to basically send consumers directly to their website to sign up. That's like the county campaign website. So you could put your logo on there so that people know they're in the right the problem when you have two is that you can't just share a link, you have to share two links. So what Albany did is obviously they just have the one link for Solarize Albany, and then customers get to the website and they can choose from there and go to the links for each individual provider. So that's a logistical issue, and I would suggest doing what you just said, which is setting it up on your Climate Smart website, maybe having both links on there if you decide to go with two.
Great, thanks. Supervisor Adams.
So I just want to know if we can ask the question. I think that in terms of capacity, this is projected capacity. I'd like to know historically what that gap is between the time they sign up and the time they start, because we were over capacity for our signups, or over what their projections were. We now have people that are waiting 2 to 3 months to get onto a plan. So I think it's important to know if their projections are the same as their, actual history, what they've been able to do historically.
And who are you using? Which provider?
Ampion.
Okay. I'm sure it's an issue with every provider too, this question, and we will dig into that. But it's a good point, not just looking forward, but looking back. What's been your experience? And they can, give us a little more assurance that they can fulfill this. All right. What other questions or Supervisor Hoffman?
Yeah, I was hoping that Supervisor Knott would speak a little bit to what he talked about in our meeting the other day regarding process. There was a request by him that, let's say we whittle it down to 2 providers and there's the option of just choosing one or choosing both. With the recommendation of this task force, I think Supervisor Knott would like the providers to come to the county government committee meeting or potentially the full board meeting and do a presentation so that the board can make the decision based not just on the recommendation of this task force, but also on, the being able to ask direct questions. Ron, just so we don't get to the end line and go, oh, wait, we should have done this process. Could you talk a little bit, Ron, or Supervisor Knott, to what you would like to see as far as the next steps involving the board choosing a provider after we have recommendations from this committee?
Yeah, no, I think you're on track. That is what I thought we were going to get to, is that the committee would make a recommendation, and if we had somebody that, as we talked about, was either on state contract or had successfully done a contract, an RFP with another municipality that we could piggyback on, that we then make a recommendation that outfit, that company come in and kind of make a pitch to the supervisors so that people can ask some questions, and if they did it to county government today with our remote meetings, any supervisor with interest could do it. But we're going to end up asking people to support this county-wide. And I know that a lot of towns have already taken on this initiative, so I don't know the conflict there. But I think people are going to have questions. So I'd like to be able to have supervisors ask directly to the company providers. That's all.
Agreed. And I think it makes sense to do it through county government. And like you said, let all the supervisors know, hey, if this passes county government, it's going to come to the full board. But if you want a chance to ask questions of the provider or hear their presentation, please come to this county government meeting.
Yep, agreed.
Thanks.
Great. When we follow up, just to be clear, we will make that clear that there's an expectation, or they'll have to come and present at the county government meeting. And what's the date there, if anyone has that handy? It's the January meeting now, right? The next one?
Brenda, what's county government?
I'm trying to figure out. Hang on one sec.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, comments about any of these issues?
It's usually the third Thursday, but I'll have to confirm that.
Okay, I can look on the calendar too. I just thought if someone.
It would be January 20th if it's the third Thursday.
It's the Thursday after the board meeting.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So January 20th, because anything in the January committee meetings gets voted on at the February board. So normally we would put this to the December county government for a vote in January by the full board, but we don't have committee meetings in December.
Right. So that's the timeline we're looking at, is we can, get it approved in February by the full board. And then I think if it's approved in January by the government committee, there's obviously good confidence it will get approved by the board at that point, and we can start working on the scoping document with the providers, with the the providers.
Well, and David, that also gives us a chance, because you have these follow-up questions, that gives us a chance for us as a task force at our January 6th meeting to do a vote on the recommendation, that gives it time for Patrice to then get it on the county government meeting for the 20th after our 6th meeting, when we have an official recommendation made by this committee.
Yeah, that's great. So we'll do follow-up, and then we'll present the final kind of our final information in advance of the next meeting in January, our meeting, and then we'll all take a formal vote on it, and then that can go from there. But we will work on that scoping document, and then there's another wrinkle to this, which is that it's a good wrinkle. There are many towns, I don't know how many, but I know there's at least a handful that want to piggyback on this county effort. And so we'll want to get them a simple resolution for their town boards and a draft of the scoping document so they can modify it for their town and submit it separately to NYSERDA, so that when we launch, they can launch, and all the subscribers in, let's say, Ghent, will be credited from the NYSERDA perspective of the grant to both the county and the town. And I think we'll have to decide, there's a benefit to the municipality, right? There's this 100. So I think the fair thing to do would be to split that and have half of it go to the town, half of it to go to the county, if there is a person in a town that's piggybacking on this campaign. I don't know how people feel about that, but that seems like the one thing we'll have to, or at least one thing, maybe among many, we'll have to. Does that seem reasonable to folks? That hopefully will just amplify the amount of energy. Lead us in Klaverick. Thank you, John. And I know there's other folks out there. And so maybe we can get, even more energy throughout the county to, local energy to sign people up or let people know that it's available.
Is Chatham still waiting, or did they decide to go ahead because of the delay?
I think Chatham's going ahead. Is it?
Yeah. I know that at one point they were waiting for the county, but they may have decided to move ahead.
Supervisor Collins, are you on?
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure Chatham has been doing their campaign for a while, actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been doing their campaign since I think last summer, actually. So they started before. Yeah, so they weren't waiting.
Okay. Thank you.
It'd be really fun to have a
list,
a county-wide number that we could put on the website from all of these campaigns that have happened historically. Even though, it's not going to go to credit the county moving forward from a NYSERDA standpoint, it'd be cool for people to see that so far in the county, through all these solarized campaigns, this many subscribers have signed up, and then we can keep, we can update that as we go, or, I don't know, something along those lines. Just a thought.
Is that something we could ask our coordinator to do?
Yeah, where would we get that information from? NYSERDA?
Or from each town? Task force.
Is there an easy way to get it? I'm wondering, from
NYSERDA would only have what was submitted, which is going to be the threshold of 10. Like, they don't really have much beyond that, and it wouldn't be a current number. So I think each community would need to check in with their subscribing company and see what the latest number is.
Yeah, one thing that we'll want is a comprehensive list. I don't think we have it anywhere. I don't have it. Maybe someone does on this call, of all the current community solar active or past community solar campaigns in the county. And then we'll also need a list of interested towns that have not participated, so we can really work with them and help them get on board.
David, we also have that email list that Becky Meyer helped create after our county-wide meeting, and it had most task force chairs on it. So we might just compile an email that says, the county's moving forward with community solar. We would could you please answer the following questions? Does your town already have an active community solar campaign? Yes, no. If yes, how many subscribers would you like our assistance or more information on how to get started? And we could just send an email out instead of Wendy having to call or any of that. It could certainly come from Wendy. We could share that list with her, and that would actually be a great way for her to introduce herself as the coordinator as well to the other towns. But that would probably be the easiest way, is just to send out a quick, we could set it up via a doodle poll, or we could just have a reply to this email with these questions.
Yep. Supervisor Knott.
Yes, to that extent, if we could find out which companies that the different towns are contracted with, I would think if we went to Astral Power or wherever, Ampion, they could tell us how many customers they have in a region, and that might be quicker overlap because Ampion might do several towns. I'm not sure that I'm right on that, but it would seem like those providers should be able to give us that information easier than the town chairs.
I agree. That's a good suggestion. And there's only a handful. Susan.
Yeah, I've been assuming that our town, Ancrum, which has already done a solarized program with Solstice, those people who had not signed up, perhaps because of the issues around consolidated billing or they didn't get around to it, would be able to sign up with the county program. Our Solstice program, we could still sign up with it, but they are no longer offering incentives. That store closed. So am I right in that assumption that our Ancrum residents could take advantage of a county program?
Yep, absolutely.
Just ask a clarifying, Maureen or Patrice, I believe that you guys actually, after our big countywide meeting, sent that email out. Does one of you have that list? I think one of you compiled that, kind of who wants to be on our distribution list. Maureen or Patrice?
I have the list that Becky prepared. I think I have an early list that she prepared.
Okay.
But we could certainly create like a Google form and send it to either the supervisors to forward it to their climate smart committees for the information. And with a Google form there, we could, have the questions right on there, and it would take a few minutes for someone to complete it. And then we would have all of that information in a nice spreadsheet so that we would have that for the record. And then we could then put that on the website just to give people that information. That's a pretty simple thing to do.
That would be perfect. And I'm thinking maybe have Wendy send it out and have her send it to the supervisors and have her introduce herself as the new coordinator. I mean, we know because we made the vote to appoint her, but I'm the new coordinator. Here's my contact because I don't have Wendy's contact. Could you please forward this to the chair of your task force if you have one? And then have, do you have community solar? If yes, who's the provider? And how many subscriptions do you have? If no, are you interested in finding out more? And can the county task force support you in those efforts? Something like that. Is that something you're willing to do, Patrice, with Wendy?
Sure, absolutely. If you have those, you just ran those questions off really quickly. If you had those, if you jot those down, or the questions that everyone would like to see the town's answer, we can, put those into the form and send it out.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. Does anyone have other questions? Do they have community solar? If yes, who's the provider? If yes, how many subscriptions do they currently have? And if no, do they want more information? Are there any other questions that we should be asking?
Yeah. Well, I think if you emailed those questions, I might have a few words to add just to, for example, just to let people in that question, the last question, let them know like there's an opportunity to participate in the county, that kind of thing. But,
I'll email the questions to you, David. You can add in what you want, and then you can get it to Patrice and her.
Okay,
and Wendy can get
great.
it out. Perfect. Thanks.
Anyone has any other questions or thoughts for what we'd want to think? I mean, this isn't like an intensive survey. It's pretty specific. But if there are any other related questions on that, just email me. Tara just put something up. I put Wendy's email in the chat, by the way. It's Wendy Madsen, wendy.madsen@columbiacountyNewYork.com. Tara just said a list of communities and their companies from June, outdated but a good start. Chatham, NYSEG, National Grid, Astral Power, and Chatham is Astral Power, and Delaware River Solar. New Lebanon is Ampion, Ancrum, Solstice, Kinderhook, Nexamp for the village buildings, and Canaan. Is Ampion. Okay.
Yeah.
That it?
It's a little outdated. It's a few months ago, so there's communities that have started this up since then. But it's a good base, I think, for some of this. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. Anything else on community solar? I think we have a good plan. So thanks, everyone. We're going to get this thing launched, and if we launch in February, I think we'll be okay.
The sun's coming back in February.
The sun comes back in February, so maybe even in March. So that's exciting. Good stuff. And I like the fact that we'll be using the website for the first time, or the web page, for an important purpose here, and could prove to be a good opportunity for us to think through other things we want to on that website, which we certainly want to get to. So the next thing is benchmarking, and Bill Mancini, Mr. Mancini from Kinderhook would like to take a few minutes of our time to give us a quick update, and then kind of next steps. But there's no real decision point here. We're working through it.
Yes. Well, I updated the portfolio manager for the information that was provided for us by the county there were, I think, 41 or 2 sites that are on now in the website. Going forward, we're going to need to find out what type of energy sources are in each building that is electric, as well as the heating, whether it's fuel oil, propane, that sort of thing, because we create meters there. I did a little research, David, yesterday after we spoke, and there is a way for National Grid to download all of the information. I did set it up so that when we go, as we get the information, or we get the okay for it, we can have nice National Grid work with us. I set it up for the village too yesterday, just to see what would happen, but so far nothing's happened. But the others, NYSEG and Central Hudson, don't have that capability, so those things would have to be input by us directly once we get the information. Other than that, let me see. Adding.
Supervisor, sorry to interrupt, Bill. Just do you know what the utilities are? Are they all over? Are they multiple?
Yeah, well, in the county, when you go, the portfolio manager has a link that you can go through any place in the United States, and you put in a zip code. So I tried the different zip codes. It lists the 3 utilities for electric in our area, and then it tells you whether or not you can actually do this kind of data exchange with the utility. And National Grid is the only one of the 3.
Right. Anyway, that's great. Carry on, Bill. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's it. I think basically, what we would need is to do a report would be a comparative of 2 years. So probably start in 21, and then by the end of next, so that we can create a report at the end of next year or early 2023. Unless Tara, I don't know, do you think it would be better to go back another year, or just do current?
that's really all depending on how the data that you want to collect. It doesn't matter from a perspective. As far as points go for the Clean Energy Communities program, for advanced reporting, you do need 2 full years worth of data to get those points for the county. So something to consider in that perspective. But besides that, it's just a preference.
So
what advanced reporting points, is that different? There are 2 levels of grants or tiers. What 1 year and 2 year?
Yep. So there isn't a 1 year. It's either you pass the resolution, so that's a set number of points, 100 points, and then advanced reporting benchmarking is 200 points, and that's you have to have 2 years worth of data. So there's no threshold for 1 year.
Okay.
But on the 2 years, we could go 2020 and 2021 rather than wait till next year. And okay, yeah.
Yep.
So we can actually get it all done then as we go forward.
Yeah, that's great. I spoke with Wendy about this, and the next step will be to take this report. Wendy, or Bill and I will set up a meeting with Wendy and Brian McDonald, who I spoke to a few weeks ago, who offered to help us out with this, the facilities director. I think that's his title. He generously offered to help. So the next step is to set up a meeting with the four of us to go look at the portfolio manager. There's two ways we can enter information. We want to walk them through so they're familiar with how it works, and then just help out in any way we can. It could just be that it's easier for them to work the system and upload the information, or if we can somehow facilitate that and help, we'll offer to do that. So that's the next step there, is to start entering in that data. Was there a hand up? I saw a hand before.
It was mine. I was going to suggest exactly what you just said, so never mind.
Good. And Tara, what are the, I know that the points under clean energy add up toward grant money, but can you just give us a quick, how many points do you get for advanced reporting? For example, you get 100 for a resolution. If we were to go back 2 years, how many points would we get, and what does that mean in terms of potential grant funding?
Yeah, so it's 100 for the resolution and it's 200 for advanced reporting. The point threshold for the first levels that you would get for any points at all would be 3,000. But you guys already have some points in the bank because you passed the PACE financing. You know, there's probably some other things we can check off that list. You'll have the Solarize campaign or the community solar campaign, which will be 200. So there's a few other pieces that'll help you get to that 3,000 point threshold. I have to check on it, but the 3,000 point threshold, I believe, is a $20,000 grant. So that's what you would get once you get to 3,000.
Okay, that's great. And then we also get separately for community solar, we would get a $15,000 grant as a large municipality from NYSERDA when we get 25 subscribers, right?
Correct. Yep.
So that's a great opportunity. So it's good to know. That's how that works. Thank you. And when we get into it, we'll calculate the points we think we have so far, and see if we're close to. That would be tremendous if we get another $20,000. Or what it would take to get there. In the new year, as we get through these initial couple projects and get them moving along or implemented, early on, we want to do. Wendy wants to look at the roadmap and help through a process of selecting a new slate of projects that we'll want to turn to for 2022. It's too early for us to have that discussion, but I think we'll try to create a facilitated discussion that makes it easier for us to visit a lot of options, and lets everyone add their 2 cents. That's all we have on benchmarking, I think. That's the process we're going to carry on and carry forward. I wanted to give Jolene, if there is an update, an opportunity to give us any update on solid waste. That's always great to hear. And if not, we can wait until Wendy's with us in January to do that. Do you want to add anything? Is there anything to report?
Well, currently, we have the food scrap program up and running at the Copake and Chatham stations. So far, there's been minimal participation, but then again, we didn't go full throttle with our advertising. We are finding residents are already doing backyard composting. So we're pretty excited about that. The material that we've collected so far has been extremely clean product, which is a really positive thing. So hopefully after the first of the year, we'll start expanding it to the rest of the transfer stations and beef up our advertising.
Great. And I'm curious what this group thinks in terms of what we can do to help promote this and advertise it. The website obviously is a good place. I'm not sure how many people are visiting the Climate Smart website these days. Probably not too many. Social media, we don't really have a campaign mechanism to reach out to people. This is something we want to work on. There is the Zero Waste group in Columbia County, which I know, and the has talked a lot about these issues, so we need to think in those fora about how we might support getting the word out. And I see a lot of hands up, so it looks like this is a hot topic. Bill?
Yes, I was going to ask Jolene if there was any information available, but since you do have something on the Climate Smart website, I've put out stuff in the village here on our what's called Next Door and gotten responses, especially with our community solar program and a few other things that we've done for our task force. So I would suggest that I could put that up if you could send me information, or I could just take the link from the website and put it up there with a little narrative as to what it's about.
Okay, absolutely. We do have it on our website. I can send you a link. As I said, after the first of the year, we're still waiting for more containers to come in. They're somewhere on a barge, I think. But hopefully we'll start, every month adding stations to the equation. And like I said, the material is really clean right now. I know the attendants are working with those residents that are interested in participating in this program. But it was also very, like I said earlier, very exciting to know that a lot of people are already doing it at home. Yeah. So that's a really positive thing.
Is there some kind of a list or instructions for people as to what they should bring or
yep,
what
I can send you. It's a very simple flyer that we have. We kept it very simple in the beginning. Like I said, just to make sure we get a clean product and program as we go. So I will definitely get that out to you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yep.
Jolene, if you could please send it to the group, that would be, or post it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay.
Are you accepting from businesses as well, or just residences?
No, just residents at this time.
Because I could imagine that's probably, I don't know what your plans are, but that it is easy to do backyard composting when you're, especially in this county, when you're, when you're just a residence. And I think there needs to be a lot of public education there so people are aware of how to do that and how easy it really is. But I would imagine businesses could really take advantage of this more, where they don't have the space necessarily. But
yeah, there are a lot of businesses already participating. I know the city of Hudson, a lot of the restaurants, Philmont, already have vendors in place that collect the material. So as the program gets going, space is always an issue for collection because residents bring in small quantities, whereas businesses would have bigger quantities of material. So that could be something in the future that we could work with our vendor on and see how they would, like to implement it. It might be a business that they would like to do on their own, collecting it at businesses. Yeah, definitely. But that's, moving forward, we will definitely be researching that.
Great. Okay, Supervisor Adams.
I just wanted to say that while it's easy to compost in the county, in rural areas where we have bears, it's not so easy. So because compost attracts animals. So I think having a central place to take compost would make a lot of people happy. But I know that a number of residences in Canaan no longer compost because of the bear problem.
Supervisor Hoffling. You're muted.
Mine's composting, so maybe come to me last because it's
okay.
a good composting conversation.
Yeah, it's hot. It's a hot composting conversation. We're high end compost. Susan.
Right. So thank you for that presentation. And in Incrum, there's a lot of energy in our Climate Smart Committee for composting. So I'm going to report back to them. And I just want to make sure I do it accurately. Is it the case that the beginning of 2022 we'll see collection bins in the Gallatin transfer station, which is the one we use, and because then we'll be full on education and we'll start soon if that's the case.
Yes, Susan, it will be. I know I received a email from one of your residents that was a little confused. I think they thought we were going to be doing more yard waste composting instead of food scrap composting. But yes, we will notify you when your station is up and operational. We'll give you a couple weeks notice, and we will assist you in doing the outreach campaign.
Okay, great. And we might even run a workshop in town, and I guess we're a dispersed enough, spread out enough county. I guess these are best done in each town rather than trying to combine efforts. I'm just thinking this through as I'm talking. But Jolene, that's wonderful, and I'm happy to report that back. People are really eager to spread the word on that and get started. Thanks.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, this is really exciting. Thank you, Susan. That's exciting too, what you're doing there. And hopefully it's a model for others to do something similar. And I don't know whether Zero Waste is an organization that's got much organizational capacity to facilitate any of this, but that would be great. Mark, you got your hand up?
Yeah, quick question for Jolene. Do the pilots also accept meat and bone? Is it high heat?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Good stuff. Jolene, was there anything else you wanted to add?
Actually, Tistry and I had a conversation a couple weeks ago, and we thought we'd share it with the group. I know that we've had a lot of conversations about outreach and working with the towns that have climate smart communities. And a thought I had was, something that maybe we could work on for a future event is maybe utilizing the county fairgrounds and having like an environmental climate smart day where we could have all the towns participate and do repair cafes and just expand the programs so that everybody can participate. I know it's a huge endeavor, but I think, moving forward with this, it would be an opportunity to include everyone and, get the word out and just see what other programs that we could incorporate. You could have people come and do demonstrations for composting and all the various programs that we are working on. So it was just a thought. Tistria was kind of excited about it. And she even offered to co-chair it if we decide to do it. But I just think moving forward, we talk about education and we talk about social media, but the best is hands-on. And, if we could do something and kind of put Columbia County on the map, we have the centrally kind of located in the county, and it would just give an opportunity to, get all these programs out there and kind of see what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish.
I love that idea. And maybe Earth Day is our good target because it's in April. It's spring. I can imagine solar providers showing up, putting a table out. I can imagine EV cars there for people to, maybe they could even test drive. It's a large enough space.
You could do like cool seed planting with the kids, right? There could be an area where there's kids activities and they could go home with a seed that's going to grow into a vegetable plant.
We'll bring trees and biochar. There's a lot there, and I think EMC could get involved in helping to promote it and other ideas. Susan.
Well, I'm sorry, David. This was what my hand was up for on the conversation. So if I could chime in quickly, I'm so excited when Jolene called me with this idea. I think we should absolutely do it, and I'm envisioning too, like a countywide free store, a countywide bike recycling program. So I think if I was thinking more June or July, because it feels like a big endeavor, but if we're looking at April, we should probably start with a subcommittee ASAP. Jolene and I could offer to co-chair. But my vision was like, let's say it's April, well, starting in January, each and every town that's open to it, whether it's through their task force or through their town hall, would advertise and start collecting donations, gently worn clothing, footwear, whatever it is we want to do, and have a place to store it. And then, it would be a big setup for like a week. We have a ton of task force volunteers. I'm sure we can find other volunteers. And we would go in like one of the big fair buildings could just be clothing racks and shoes, if we wanted to do housewares and couches, you know, Jolene, it started because there was bikes at the transfer station that a resident texted to me, and Mark went and picked them up for our bike recycling program. And Jolene's like, look, you know, we often get like bikes or furniture, these things that are in baby swings that are in fine shape. But Jolene doesn't for them. So if they end up at the county waste drop-offs, or maybe we could have some of the county waste as drop-offs, as long as we have volunteers to then ship them to location. And same with the bike recycling. You know, New Lebanon has a lot of bikes right now. It might encourage other towns to start their own bike recycling programs. And then you have bikes there that are free. It could really be this like big community event. And one thing I was thinking, and again, I would like today to actually have Jolene and I be co-chairs and get some volunteers and form a subcommittee and meeting this month, especially if we're talking Earth Day. But you could even have it be definitely a whole weekend long, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. It's going to be a lot of setup. But if the fairgrounds were okay with it, if it's a time that they're not utilizing their buildings, we could even do 2 weekends in a row. Because once it's all set up, it's there, right? So we could have Saturday and Sunday, a bunch of stuff goes, but then the following weekend there's probably still going to be clothes and bikes and other things. So it could even be like a two weekend long event, or at least a Saturday Sunday, because it is going to be a lot of setup. But we did a similar thing in New Lebanon down at the LVPA, where we basically brought our entire free store down and set it all up, and stuff that had been sitting in our free store for 2 years, it all went. Everything was gone. We had 100 people show up. We advertised free stuff. It was all spread out, and it was pretty much all gone by the end of the day. So I'm pretty excited to work with Jolene on this if the committee wants to get behind it.
It sounds great. Thank you guys for the energy and the leadership. There's very exciting. Susan.
Right, that is a fabulous idea, and it does sound exciting. I think there'd be a lot of interest. But back to composting, I am thinking, especially if there's going to be a community-wide event, and if there's grant money, I'm wondering if, besides putting up collection sites at transfer stations, the county might be able to offer composting bins to home composters at a reduced or subsidized price. Of course, that would require money to buy them, grant money to buy them. Perhaps that could tie into a composting event at a county large event, where there's a workshop on how to compost, and then the opportunity to buy cheap bins. I know that's how I got started with composting in the city, was a program through the botanical gardens, where I was able to buy a couple of cheap discounted composters, and figured it out from there. So it might work for others as well. So just throw that. It's a premature idea probably, but just throw it out there as food for thought.
Bill, you're muted.
Yes, I got it. In the village, we attempted to do a composting education program. Unfortunately, the pandemic interfered, and we had collaborated with the Cornell Cooperative Extension to do some work with us. They had some presenters there that were going to do it at the library. What we did do is buy 2 small, basically home composters that we're going to use as display and raffle off. One of them we donated to the library, which they're using now in their garden. It was part of a program up in Bethlehem, I believe, where the town itself advertised this for the area, and people could come and buy their own, and we bought the 2 there. So I could look up the information on that if you're interested in the company that was involved. It's a place in New Jersey that ran the program for Bethlehem.
Well, actually, Wendy Dwyer.
Yes, Wendy is.
Yes, she actually is, working with that company, with the composting bins. So, I mean, this would be a great opportunity to get Cornell Cooperative Extension involved. They have a lot of information about backyard composting. And again, it's just, there a lot of these committees, have programs or projects that I'm sure that they would like to share or have ideas. And this would be a nice opportunity for us to work with them and kind of, get a program together and see what different ideas that they have. I just think it would be really great for all of us to work together and have a day to celebrate what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, we could, invite food trucks, or the fair might want to serve food. I'm wondering, Jolene, because when the town does our free store event and our bike recycling for sure, and the repair cafe, the town board had to approve it because it has to be covered under the town's insurance. Correct. So I'm wondering if maybe we should see if we have some other volunteers, or at the very least, you and I, Jolene, get together and formalize a little bit more of a plan that we potentially bring back to this task force again at our January meeting to get onto the county government approval for January to move forward with, logistics and all of that. Because there will be the insurance piece that is as a county event, which I'm sure won't be a problem with the town. We just called our insurance company and they gave us a, certificate of coverage for the offsite location for our event. But it probably should go through the Board of Supervisors, especially because of that insurance piece.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe it's something CLC could also assist us with.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be great. So I guess, is there anyone else on this committee that would want to at least have an initial meeting with Jolene and I outside of this committee at some point in December, and we could start brainstorming all the different ideas and logistics and what the next steps would be?
Yeah, volunteer.
I'd be, yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that I'd volunteer to be on that as well.
Okay.
Can you hear me right now? I don't know if these are working. Yeah, there's a project that I'm working on right now too, that's about building a network of all of the climate smart community task force leaders and CAC heads and all of those things. So this could be a great way also to help with communication and planning around the event. So I'd be happy to get involved.
Awesome. So I have Susan, Matthew Stinchcomb, Bruce Shanker. Anyone else that would like to volunteer? John? Yep. Did I miss anyone? I have Jolene and I, Matt Stinchcomb, Bruce Shanker, Susan Flam, and John Bradley. Awesome. So, David, you're willing? All right. So what I'm going to do, Jolene, if it's okay with you, is I'll send an email out to everyone to find a date. Actually, Jolene, do you have the ability to do doodle poll? Because that's so much easier, and I don't have an account.
I don't have an account, but I could probably get one. I'll look into it.
So, Jolene, I'll send you all the people, I just wrote them down, that want to volunteer and their email addresses, and maybe you can coordinate a first meeting for sometime before our January task force meeting.
Sure.
So, yep. Okay, awesome. Yay.
Yay.
Thank you all so much. And thank you, Jolene, for this fabulous idea.
No, I think it's really going to be fun. I really do. I think I'm kind of excited about this. This is something that I'm passionate about. So I look forward to working with all you guys.
Dave, I think you're muted.
Sorry, thanks, Matt. I just sharing my excitement. John, did you want to add anything, or your hands up? No?
No, I can't figure out how to take my hand down.
Yeah, I think you hit the hand again. It goes down, but that's fine.
Okay.
You're just giving us a round of applause for the
Right.
One point on the composters. I've just be a little contrarian, and I'm certainly not an expert. I just want to throw it out there, and maybe it's worth further evaluation. I've never been a fan of buying a piece of plastic to compost, and there are some cases where it makes sense, where you're in a confined space, where you're in a city, you've got a little small space, and you want to do that. But I've never found the need to use it, and if you are a passive composter, meaning that you've got space for 2 or 3 piles, and you can put your leaves over next to it and grass clippings or whatever else, and then just add them in periodically, leave a pitchfork there. That works really well. And if you don't add oil or meat or bones, it's much less likely to attract any kind of nuisance animals. So there's that too. But just want to throw it out there that when I'm promoting people buying plastic to compost, when really it's very simple to do on the grounds or in small piles. But throwing it out there. So I don't think, I think that's it. I think that's all we have. 11:15, hour and 15 minutes. Is there any other business? No? Well, this has been a short but very efficient and really exciting call. We've got good projects. We've got a coordinator who will all look forward to meeting in January. We've got this event that seems to be developing, which is really exciting, and I think could bring together a lot of people and create a lot of energy for us and for what's happening in the county here. So with that, unless there's anything else, we'll close the meeting. Bruce has left. Okay. So now that Bruce has left, the meeting is over. And I wish everyone a really happy holiday, happy New Year, and we'll be in touch by email. And see you in the new year.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dave. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.